The Ringer's music critic Rob Harvilla curates and explores 60 iconic songs from the 90s that define the decade. Rob is joined by a variety of guests to break it all down as they turn back the clock. Check out 60 Songs That Explain the 90s exclusively on Spotify.
This episode of The Dave Chang Show is brought to you by Nespresso. Even if you've never been a morning person, you can rewrite your relationship with mornings. Make it a moment for yourself. Savor every morning with Nespresso Virtuo. Discover Nespresso Virtuo machines at Nespresso.com.
This episode is brought to you by 3M. 3M has always been driven to improve lives with science and innovation. It's this forward-thinking mindset that led 3M to invent household items you've come to know and love, like Post-it notes and command hooks. But 3M believes they have a responsibility to use their science to improve lives in even more ways. That's why they're responding to the COVID-19 crisis by working on solutions for some of today's biggest challenges. As a leading provider of personal protective equipment, 3M is producing critical products for healthcare workers and first responders, and donating to local and humanitarian aid partners around the globe. They're also making more respirators than ever before, with plants working around the clock, producing more than 95 million respirators per month in the U.S., helping those on the front lines continue the fight. 3M Science, applied to life. Learn more about how 3M is helping the world respond to the COVID-19 pandemic at 3m.com/COVID.
Dave Chang Show, part of the Ringer Podcast Network, presented by Major Domo Media. Thank you, Yola Tango, as always, for the intro music. Go check them out on tour, as basically every band you listen to seems to be on tour. I can't wait to see live music. Have you guys bought any summer tickets?
No, unfortunately, no live music tickets yet, but that's mostly because of my life situation, being a parent.
I am not a fan of live music, but I support musicians.
What? You hate food. You hate live music.
Where did this hate food rhetoric come from?
You're Dionysus' worst enemy. You don't like food. You don't like music.
Love food. I sincerely adore and love food. I don't know where this is coming from. However, I don't like live music. I'm actually pretty on the record about this. Anyone who's ever followed my work knows that I don't like live music.
Full stop. No live music.
Thank you, Isaac, for continuing to help us hemorrhage listeners.
I'm the wet blanket of this podcast.
I don't know what to say anymore. All joy has been taken out of line. Which leads us to maybe a question. What are your thoughts about the world we know before COVID in terms of the top 50 list, the Michelin Guide, the 101, the Eater list, the New York whatever, food writing, the gatekeepers, all of these things. Do you think any of that matters anymore? Because I feel like there's a growing sense that the foodie culture that was so, I wouldn't say dominant, but really peak niche bubble 2000 to 2020, like a good 20-year run, is not nearly as strong as it once was. Your thoughts?
I think that those gatekeepers, and I mean everything from the top down, Oscars, Grammys, just look at how it's played out over the last few years, and the trickling into food media, the award systems, of all of the those bodies across the board seem to have less idea of like what the fuck to do right now than any other organized system on earth.
But it's not even that. It's like where to eat and what to eat. Like, I don't know. And I'm not saying it's a free-for-all. And, you know, our friends that work in these websites and the traffic, the guides seem to be doing a lot better than anything else. But, you know, that sort of ravenous appetite for what was next. You know, when our good friend Ivan Orkin was live broadcasting his meal at Noma, Tokyo, like several years ago, I think everybody that I knew in food that couldn't make it there was following that. And it was like a holy shit moment. Do you think that would ever happen again? Like, are we, you know, that sort of frothy bubble that food was. Like it was awesome. And I loved experiencing it. But with everything that's happened, what I'm asking is, do you think we're going to recreate that moment where it's like, oh yeah, like I'm going to drop everything just to see, not even to eat, but just to follow restaurants and what to eat and what's the best steak this. And I don't know, like if I'm having a hard time boxing it in, it's because I just feel the zeitgeist has changed. That's just me.
I think it's a little bit cyclical and a little bit not. I hear what you're saying. I think the gatekeepers don't work now because the gates are wide fucking open, right? That's what you're basically talking about. The gates are open. There's nobody stopping us at the gate anymore. But what is going to emerge from that, the original function of the singular newspaper food critic was the person who, with all of the options you have in New York City, you need somebody who can boots on the ground tell you what to eat, where your dollar is best spent. I don't think that need goes away, and I think eventually will increase. I think like with so many people being let into the gates now, if for better and worse, it's going to become hard to parse what needs to be eaten again. I do think it's going to come back to some extent. I don't think it's going to come back in the form it was. I don't think it's going to be awards. I don't think it's going to be stars, but I think it's going to be raw information. That's what I think.
I feel weirdly that this is the new era of like food vigilantism almost, right? I'm not saying it's good or bad, but what I really appreciate are the amateur, I don't want to use the word foodie ever again, but people that like love to eat and are pursuing the new. They're doing the work. They're really doing the work. They are going out to places that no one else is going to. And I feel like emboldened to share that experience. And I think that's awesome. I think what the question is how does the cream rise to the top? Like with all of these people now saying that this is good and that is good, how do you find who is the person to listen to?
Yeah, well, I mean, especially when you bring subjectivity into it, right? Who is the person I should listen to? Because my tastes coincide with that person. You know, like, do you believe in our favorite thing in the entire world? Dave, do you believe in platonic ideals? Do you believe in the best?
I think I'm going to take a page out of Little Meg's book when talking about sushi in Tokyo. She's like, the best could be 15 different restaurants simultaneously.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like right now, I'm in Jackson Hole, and every fucking restaurant serves an awesome hamburger. They're all really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's not like living in New York being like, well, you got J.G. Mellon's, you got Corner Bistro, you got this, and this. They're like, no, they're all different types of burgers. But it's like, at some point, it's all good. And it's not like the best player in basketball, you know? Or it sort of is the best player in basketball. It's like, who is it right now? Isaac? At any point, it could be like 10 different players.
Yeah, it could be KD, it could be Kawhi, it could be
LeBron, AD, you know? And I feel that's the sort of the same when you get to like the nitty gritty of it all. But I
that's
guess
exactly where my head was going too with NBA basketball. Like the point is like, yes, I mean, we say this on the Ringer Network, which, you know, spends a lot of time putting things into order.
Isaac.
We do.
But my big takeaway, like having gone to one or two games recently is like, NBA basketball is so fucking good. Just like the burgers where you are, Dave, so fucking good. And it doesn't really matter to me because no matter where you go, you're going to see some exceptional high quality game. You're going to have an exceptional burger. So I don't know. Does it matter? Do we need to rank them?
Can I ask, are we then going to move to more of a collectivist idea of foodieism, right? It's more like the scene, the pizza scene in New York, iconic, scenes. Are we going to start talking about the kebab scene in Los Angeles? I think we might already be there, but is that going to be more prominent than individual restaurants?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think it's collectivism. I think this is sort of representative of culture in general. Like no one, like you're going to broadcast your own audience. I think the difference is if you are a person that has a platform, like say a critic for the New York Times, I think it's harder than ever because you can't fuck up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can't fuck up. And it's not like watching a movie where it's like fucking up would be like Godfather 2 is a shitty movie, you know? Citizen Kane is garbage. You can't, that's not like there's enough data where you can build a consensus. What I'm saying is, I think what is becoming very clear to me, to become an expert in food, you can't really say that. And not to sound like the School of Athens, you can't say you know anything, you can't be an expert in anything, but I sort of mean that, is that you really need to approach every subject and be like, I'm still learning, I have no idea, because you are physically limited by the knowledge of experience. You just can't taste everything. But I think that causes us to get into a really crazy new area where people assume that they're expert. Well, like, there are people, I won't name it, on like the food websites that claim they're Japanese expert in food. And it could be anything. It could be Cambodian cuisine. It could be Sri Lankan cuisine or whatever. Like, how the fuck do they know? Like, I remember when Pete Wells reviewed Nakazawa, and I could pick on any critic, but I'll always remember this one when he's like, yeah, Nakazawa doesn't have the best rice compared to 15 East. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck did you write? You're like, that's ridiculous. You know, it's like, rice is sushi. Yeah, you know, the shari is sushi. So like, if a critic goes to a local pizzeria that's new and says it's not good, they're maybe judging it on their own experiences, but they may not know that these other trends that are happening, and they're just behind the times. Which is why I'm just saying, like, I think it's more interesting to find out who this next generation of people that know what good is. You know what I mean? Like, we need a platform that allows us to sort of, what's the word? Aggregate the best in class people out there. Because it's not one person. I think it's a group of people, just like there cannot be a group of, there can't be one great NBA player. There can't be one great sushi restaurant that's number one. You know, it's like a collection of people that have a good opinion and good takes, and they're like avatars for people. You know, like, what I like is going to be very different than what you like, Isaac, clearly, because you don't like anything.
The slander. Why are you taking shots?
But people that are Isaac Lee fans, the other people that are that also are Eeyore and misanthropes and hate chocolate and ice cream and live music,
pummeled over here,
and laughing babies.
Oh
yeah, and hate old people and babies.
This is,
you know,
entirely
the people
untrue.
out there in the world that sort of are in your boat. Yeah, that very, very small boat. They
unbelievable.
They want to know the best place to buy grape nuts. Like, they need to know that information.
How do I recreate Civil War tack?
We were just discussing something deep and meaningful about the food world, and while we're turning
they want to know what are the best earmuffs to wear when your friends force you to go to a live concert and have a good time with them. Like, how can I block out that noise?
Get custom silicone ones is actually my answer.
How do you boo the artist on stage without
never boo. I support musicians. I just don't like going to live music concerts.
Which heckles hurt the musician the most when you yell them from the crowd. Like, they need to know this stuff.
This is
all 14 of you. They look to Isaac Lee as their avatar about where to go and what to eat. And I don't think it's this distilled one thing for everybody, right? It's not this monoculture. And yet, weirdly, I don't think we have a platform that embraces that multi-perspective universe. Yeah. And I just don't think we have, it doesn't do these gatekeepers or these periodicals justice, like, doesn't do them any service to embrace other people's opinions other than the people that they employ. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But there's no platform that sort of like allows it. And it's not Reddit, but in that Reddit, like Wall Street Bets type of thing, like, we don't have an open source. These are the people that are really fucking good at their jobs. And it's not the blog posts. It's not e-gullets. It's not mouthfuls. It's not opinionated about dining. It's not any of that shit. It's just like, honestly, maybe it's just TikTok. Maybe it is just Instagram. You know, I think the people that are going out there and making these like 1 minute clip videos, it's highly informational.
Yes, and no. I think it is that to some extent, but what is missing from those platforms is exposure to stuff outside of your interest. Like, I want to be exposed to experts in things that I don't know yet. Right. And so, like, I don't want to create an echo chamber where it's just, you know, it's Isaac's list and it's just people who want noise canceling earmuffs and grape nuts, because that's our field of interest. I want to see, oh, hey, I've always been interested in knowing more about Ethiopian food. Who is this person who seems to know everything about it? That's the missing part from those systems.
But you're sort of agreeing with me, is that like, we need to have some kind of
like de-incentivized egalitarian experts in each field.
I was thinking like a super league. You know, like just a group of people that are like, I don't agree with you. I'm not looking for agreement or consensus.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it's just the people that like, I respect to disagree with you, but this is my take. This is what I think is good. And people do this anytime. It's like choosing a video game character. And I'm not saying that would exclude new ways of learning about eating, new restaurants, new techniques. But for me, as a diner, as someone that's in this profession, I'm like, man, like somebody needs to just like create something where it just sorts out all the bullshit and like follow this person. And it's not an algorithm.
No, the algorithm just creates the echo chamber, because I was going to say, the analog is like Netflix, which is, this is an 86% match for your tastes. But it is the Super League, Dave, except it's the Super League with promotion and relegation. Because if you're the expert, but then enough people are like, you know what, your recommendations suck, you need to be relegated out of the Super League and not be a voice of authority anymore. Which
is why I want to come out and proclaim that I'm running for dictator of all food opinions.
Yeah. Food media czar.
I'm the king of all food opinions, self-proclaimed king of all food opinions.
I mean, this podcast is called My Opinion is Fact, so I feel like you're pretty qualified for that position.
God. Oh, the fucking dictator thing again. This is a
long preamble just to let everyone know I am running for office, and I'm not allowing anybody else to run for this office other than myself.
The Democratic Republic of Chang.
Oh my God. Should we do some moifing?
Let's moif. Let's moff. Let's take a quick break.
Can I just say, what the fuck did we just talk about? I have no idea.
It's
hard to say.
That's the recurring question of this podcast is, what the fuck did we just talk about? Let's take a quick break, and then we'll get to some moifs.
This episode of The Dave Chang Show is brought to you by Hotwire. Imagine a nice vacation. Is there a view of the parking lot? No. So don't book a cheap hotel. Book an expensive hotel for cheap on Hotwire. With hot rate deals, you can stay in nicer hotels than you ever thought possible. Just select your city, neighborhood, and amenities, then get your hot rate. Better views, king-size beds, and freshly pressed waffle-woven robes await you. And also actual waffles. Download the Hotwire app now and book beyond your wildest means. All bookings final. This episode of The Dave Chang Show is brought to you by Nespresso. Believe it or not, it's possible to say good morning and actually mean it. All you need to do is make time for yourself in the morning. I never drank coffee before my son was born, and now I drink coffee all the time. I need it. I need it to be quick. I need it to be delicious. And I can do that with the Nespresso Virtuo machine. Savor every morning with Nespresso Virtuo. Create exceptional coffee and an exceptional moment for yourself. Discover Nespresso Virtuo machines at Nespresso.com. This episode of The Dave Chang Show is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. If you want to hire people that you're really excited about, there's really only one place to go, ZipRecruiter.com/Chang. ZipRecruiter makes finding winning candidates fast and easy. That's because they get out there and hustle for you. First, when you post a job on ZipRecruiter, it gets sent out to over 100 top job sites in just one click. Then, ZipRecruiter's matching technology finds people with the right skills and experience for your job and actively invites them to apply. It's no wonder that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. You can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Chang. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Chang, CHANG. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
All right. Dave, you mentioned this earlier, and I actually went to such an event last night. Stand-up comedy. Overrated or underrated?
It's, I don't know if it can be overrated. I think it's underrated. I think there's something really thrilling to see a comedian die on stage. Right? And I mean that because some of my best friends are really top comedians, and I've seen them just wilt. And why I find it to be thrilling and invigorating is you got to trust the fucking process, man. And it's about picking yourself up, sometimes intentionally failing. I know some comedians that literally the only way they know how to do it is just to get bloodied and fucking bruised and battered and to piece themselves together only to break themselves again the following night, or sometimes 3 times in one night. Mm-hmm. And what I love about it is when you see a great comedian on stage crush it, that was not an overnight thing. That was just hundreds of hours of getting to that point. And I love it. I love that so much to see that process. So that's why I think it's what I think is underrated about comedy is the process to get to something transcendent. And I think it's like anything that's a great work of art. And I see a lot of myself in that process, which also means that I think I should be a great comedian, potentially.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to see you bomb on stage.
Yeah,
I never really thought about it in that way. That like that sort of the thrill of Formula One or NASCAR is like the threat of a crash. That it's a dangerous thing. But I'd never thought of the threat of a comedian sort of dying on stage as part of the thrill.
Again, I'm saying this all facetiously as a joke about
potato.
I would never do that because it's so fucking hard. But Chris, you're right. It's not even the thrill necessarily. I think I've never articulated this. I love it when people swing for the fences.
Well, I was going to say I was just thinking the high wire act jokes. When you said that, I thought about in Aziz's set before he did his last Netflix set, he has that joke where he's like, "Did you guys all hear about this thing where some pizza place put a swastika out of pepperoni on their pizza?" And his whole joke is relying on somebody in the audience to raise their hand and say, "Yeah, I heard about that." Because, statute of limitations here, I'll spoil the joke. But he's like, "Great, because I fucking made that up. And you're a liar." But like a high wire act like that, where if nobody raises their hands and they don't come along with you, you're going to flop. Like that shit is thrilling. And you think about it after the fact. And just hearing you talk about the reason you like stand-up, that's the first thing that came to mind are those jokes that like, there's no guarantee of a laugh here. I need things to go right on this joke.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love it. I mean, it is, I have so much respect for what they do. I could never do that because I can't even dance in front of the people. Why the fuck would I tell a joke in front of people?
Yeah, I love stand-up comedy. I went to a show last night. It was a lot of fun. There's nothing like laughing with the room full of people.
I got a good contest for us. A good bet.
Okay.
No. Oh, God.
When we do this caloric experience that Isaac Lee has not yet realized he's been drafted in.
What? Sorry. Excuse me?
Oh, yeah.
You're
doing
drafted
this too?
in
The caloric experience.
No.
100%.
No. This is against my will.
Loser of the caloric experience challenge.
No. I refuse. I know where this is going.
Loser of the caloric experience challenge has to go on an open mic.
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Yes.
No.
Dude, it's better than a tattoo.
No.
Was a tattoo on the table? Nobody agreed to these terms.
Yes, a tattoo's on the table.
I am not signing this contract.
You know what? Fuck it. Whatever it takes to lose some weight, I'm in. Let's do this. I'll do an open mic. Let's do this.
Open mic. It's got to be 10 minutes, and we got to Instagram live it. Yeah.
You got to have
Instagram
10 minutes
live
of
it.
material? Oh, no.
5 minutes. All right, we'll do 5 minutes.
Oh,
5 minutes material. The loser has to go open mic. Any open mic.
I refuse. This is point the gun at my head. I'm good.
I mean, this is how confident Dave is, though. Can you imagine Dave ever showing up at an open mic and doing his tight five? Come on, man.
I will literally go on the Lance Armstrong fucking drug routine. I will pump myself full of fucking anything I need to never go on open mic.
How many people would want to see you do that? Like, I will get so much help from people who want to see you.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I'll just fucking do cocaine every day. Good luck.
Oh, God.
Lawrence Taylor was the greatest football player on cocaine. Chevy Chase was the greatest comedian on cocaine.
On cocaine.
I think I'm going to be the greatest caloric experience contestant on cocaine. Don't worry about it.
Fine. You do coke and I'll do fen, and we'll just see each other in the grave here. Oh my God. All right.
What is happening? What is happening?
I don't know. Our next topic. Cabeza.
Do you think this is the most random ass fucking 30
absolutely.
minutes we've ever recorded?
I mean, we set the bar every single time we do one of these. It gets more and more chaotic. But anyway, cabeza.
Usually this is how the awful lines fall. Dave anti, Chris pro.
What's cabeza?
Cow cheek meat.
Cheek meat, head meat.
Oh.
Head meat. Yeah, cabeza literally means head.
The only Spanish word I know from the face is ojo. That's it.
Okay.
Ojos, yeah. Which I've also eaten in a taco. But I think I always order cabeza. And to be honest with you, I'm 60% kind of sad that I did.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't like cheek meat anymore.
Yeah. Texturally is not what is like a little too mushy by the time it can be picked off.
It's very fatty.
It's sort of like overcooked carnitas, basically.
Can I tell you where I'm at on not just cabeza and meat in general? And again, phrase this, like, I'm not going to give up meat. But more and more I'm thinking about it, it's like, it's fucking gross. It is fucking
of course
disgusting.
It is. Yeah.
But it's so delicious. I can't.
Yeah.
Every time I'm ripping into a chicken leg, I'm like, that's a fucking leg.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Of a very young chicken.
Yeah. I know that, but I've always thought about that. And I'm just sort of separating two things. I think it's really hard for anyone to say, you don't have to even talk about the environment, but just like, okay, like taking the life to consume. I think is one thing. I think hunting for your meat, if you're not buying it and you're living off the land, that's one thing. I'm totally down ethically and morally. For me, I just don't have the fortitude to like give up meat because my stomach is much more powerful than my mind. and like one reason why, besides this, I guess just working with meat so much, it's just like, man, like I don't want to cook chicken meat anymore. It's a pain in the ass. I would if it's an animal that I killed and shot. And I mean, I know that we'll serve it on restaurants. I'm giving you like something that I'm wrestling with. And like, it doesn't even have to be that. It's like fish. Like I've been spending so much time going all the way back to college thinking about ahimsa and the perspective of a non-meat eater, or even like the concept of Jain, like the philosophy of this religion, Jainism, which I think is really beautiful. Like if you're gonna like stop suffering, like just go all the way. I'm saying all of this because I think I'm turning 44 this year in a month. I have now spent more time, 20 plus years, thinking about what it must be like to be a vegan or vegetarian, not for just environmental reasons. That is a whole nother subject, but simply because you don't want to take the life of something and what that means. And I don't really have an answer. Like I think about it a lot, but I'm not able, just because I think about it doesn't mean I can do it. And doesn't mean that like I want to prevent anyone else from doing it. This is just speaking for myself. Every time I'm at a restaurant, I want to order a fucking piece of meat.
Right.
You know, because it's so delicious. But I'm trying to just thread out and separate the idea that like, first of all, I have killed a lot of animals. If you haven't killed an animal to eat, I think people honestly would eat a lot less meat if they had to kill their own meat. I really believe that. Or the process of suffering and death that has been so removed from eating.
Right.
Like if we had to go back to like Chris and I talked about in the meat episode and Ugly Delicious, but steak episode, but like if you had to go back to like the early 1800s with Bill the Butcher or 1900s, where people were eating steak literally in a room full of cow carcasses,
nobody would do it.
I don't think people would do that today.
Yeah,
we've gone so far where it used to be cool in the 50s on and up, where you would walk past the dry age room, they would bring out a cart of all the cuts of meat. That is now gone. And dry age rooms are now gone. You don't even see that. The whole idea that you're eating something that came from another animal has been completely eradicated. And it's like literally it falls off the tree. I think one of the things that we probably should bring more of is letting people know that a life was taken. And I'm not against animal husbandry. I'm 100% meat eating, but I think partly is like just being responsible. As a hypocrite as I am, sometimes like I forget that. And it's something I have to constantly remind myself to be a little bit more responsible.
Because I think, it goes without saying, or we have not said it, I should say. Part of this Cabeza overrated, underrated question and riffing on what Dave was saying about if you eat meat and you haven't killed the animal, there's some irresponsibility there. If you're a meat eater, but you're turned off by the idea of Cabeza, cheek meat, whatever, like that's kind of a problem. And you should, and I know a lot of people that feel that way.
Lengua as well. Now, like something else you said, Dave, that's really interesting is like, you were like, eating the chicken leg is gross. It's gross to think about that you're eating this body part of this animal. That kind of perfectly registers with me because when I think about the vegetarianism and not eating meat, it's actually not so much the act of killing the animal that bothers me, as weird as that is to say. I don't know if this makes me sound like a fucking sociopath or not, but like I've killed animals as well. And that's not the part that turns me off to meat. It's that like, and now I'm going to bite into this strip steak, which is a piece of muscle from this animal's back. Now I'm just going to take a bite off of its hind quarter. You know what? You know what I really want to eat today is a plate that has a little bit of its butt over here and then just like some of its belly. It's like soft belly from down here. Like that's the part. And I think they are maybe two distinct things, or maybe I'm just sounding like a complete fucking maniac. You're right. I mean, look, all living things die. And there's plenty of debate around this topic about whether if you actually do kill an animal and eat it, is that some sort of like revitalization because now it's becoming part of you. It's a dead thing becoming a living thing because it's now edifying your body. There are people who think that way instead. I'm kind of the opinion of
I'm smelling some patchouli. I'm smelling some patchouli over on my Zoom.
Patchouli? No, there are people who think that way. I mean, look, you kill a living thing and now it's dead.
Do I hear Franklin's Tower playing 1984 Cornell?
Oh God. And it's part of like, like a literally revitalizing it in many ways, like in terms of just like atoms, right? In terms of matter becoming part of life again. However, I'm kind of the opinion that you just have to honor your food and to be conscious of, for your own sake, I'm eating something that was once connected to a brain that had a conscious, that had a will and an intent.
No, but it's I don't have the fortitude yet. Maybe one day. Like I'm here, one of my buddies, he only eats elk and venison. And occasionally he might eat something when he goes to a restaurant because like we went to a restaurant and he got like a grain bowl. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? Because like I'm eating a burger again with bacon on it because it's fucking delicious and I love it. It was so good. And I looked at him, he's like, why would you do that? Why would you eat a fucking grain bowl? And another time we ate, he got like an appetizer of warm potato salad. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. It's like, and again, the second time, I had another juicy burger, but this time I didn't have it with bacon. Just a cheeseburger. It was delicious.
God.
Each time I'm like, you eat meat? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's so sad. I feel so sad for you. Like, you don't bite into this beautiful, juicy burger that is so delicious and choice, and you have this sad grain bowl. And and he's like, I have elk in the freezer, and that's the meat that I eat. And I have so much elk that I want it. It's delicious. I love it, and that's what I eat. And like, I've been out to the restaurant. It's not to say that he won't order meat, but like, he's like on his own diet. It's like a keto diet or whatever. And like, honestly, I look at this person like the same person that's like 6'3" and like only eats no carbs, no sugar, works out 3 hours a day, still does their job, still does everything. You're just like, how the fuck do you do that? I don't have that willpower to do that. I respect it. I want to learn how to do that. I've never hunted elk before, and it's something I clearly would love to learn how to do, but I think it would be a different feeling to know that, oh, everything I'm eating, and it's very different than like, I know like Zuckerberg and all these tech bros are only doing like, I only eat fucking meat, I hunt.
No,
I think this is a very different thing.
Nothing like that. Yeah.
When it's more out of like, I can do this, it's my hobby, and it's like, it just makes more sense, I think. And like when they're not eating it, or they're not eating animals that they have hunted, I don't know. It's like, I find it very admirable. I find it more admirable in some ways than any other kind of like way of like avoiding eating meat. I think it's more honorable to actually only eat meat of things that they have like harvested themselves. I think that's weirdly like, I have so much respect for that. I also don't have the discipline to do that, nor the hunting skills to do that.
Just go hungry. No, I think it's not only admirable. I think it's kind of aspirational because it's. I mean, you know, I'm sure that elk meat is delicious.
I have friends that are the Muslim faith, and they're just like, no fucking chance I'm eating shellfish. Friends that are Orthodox, they're not eating shellfish or pork. I not only respect that, like, I really admire it. I love that about both faiths, is that it's a constant reminder of your religion, of what you're allowed to eat and what not allowed to eat. Like, I want that. Someone give me that rule. I don't want
a constant
that rule.
affirmation of your faith. Like, it's an act you have to perform constantly. It's not like I can just be a sort of like lazy version of whatever I believe in, right?
And I don't want that rule to be, I don't want a rule to be when I have a heart attack and it goes like, you got to only eat vegetables now. Like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that to be my reminder. It's like, oh, I have a fucking triple bypass surgery and then you have to eat well or something like that. I really admire where people just have the discipline, like, no, I'm not eating that. Like, when someone passes up bacon, I'm like, motherfucker, you are.
You're so powerful.
God, your God is so great.
You're such a true believer.
Your God is so fucking great. Like, God damn it.
But like,
or you could think about this. Your God is a sick, sadistic motherfucker.
And I'm here for it. I think it's like,
no shrimp cocktail, no anago, no bacon. Oh my God.
But I mean, like, it's exactly the sort of premise for the caloric experience, though, Dave, because you and I and Isaac, like, we all know we don't have the willpower to do this, and so we're asking for a situation that's like, please force us to do this. Please give us the equivalent of a triple bypass so that we have to eat correctly. Like, that's the only way to do it.
And I think about this now too. You know, my mom just left us. And she's been through a lot of treatment over the 25 plus years, and she's getting the shit kicked out of her right now with chemo. But like, I don't want to take eating something for granted. You know what I mean? Like, while I'm healthy enough, like, I want to be able to like find a way to reset in the same way as a cook. Oftentimes, and I mean this, if you're a cook and you're listening to the show and you've never thought about resetting your palate, you're not doing your job. You're not doing your job. Every few months, you need to actually ask yourself this metaphysical question, existential question, like, what is my palate? Is it overseasoned? Is it too much salt? Do I want too much acid? And you sort of need to do an evaluation, like a 360 review of your palate. And I think the same thing, I'm looking for a reset in how I eat, because like, when I made something for my mom, she's like, wow, this is really delicious. You know, like, that's that moment that I want again, because I feel like I've been introduced to so much that it's all like desensitized to some degree.
Is some of this coming from the fact that you are in Wyoming right now? You are like living a little more in you know, a rustic, less urban life?
Do I want to be in K-Town? Do I want to go to San Gabriel Valley right now? 100%.
Are you though? Because like, the thing that comes to mind right now is like, I'm listening to you here like say this stuff, Dave, and I'm like, this is just like Bill Murray in Lost in Translation calling his wife from a hot tub in Japan, being like, I just want to be healthier. I just want to eat more Japanese. You know, like,
no, it's not about healthy. I think I'm trying to appreciate what I have. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess in some ways it's when I've talked about hamburgers again, it's like, I don't want to be elitist in that sense. Like, you can't think a burger is fucking delicious, right? Like, and it goes back to when people are like, oh, you like Domino's? I'm like, yeah, I grew up eating Domino's. It's what I thought was the first pizza. It's like, I think it's stupid to say like, anybody that likes Domino's is an idiot, or Papa John's. Yes, you can fucking hate them for their company values and shit like that, but I think what I'm trying to get less of is judging somebody because they can or cannot eat something or they like something a certain way. Even though this podcast is all about judging, I get it. But I think in practice, for me, it's like personally, I'm just trying to get to a place where I'm like resetting things where Juan Marie Arzak, if you don't know who Juan Marie Arzak is, he's one of the most influential chefs in the world, runs restaurant Arzak in San Sebastian, and really the godfather of modern Spanish cuisine. And his daughter, Elena, is an outstanding chef in person. But one of the things I've always loved about Juan Marie, and I think more about this than ever before, particularly when I spend more time with Hugo, is that he always looks at life through a child's eyes. And I've always understood that. But now having Hugo, I like hanging out with Hugo, not to like overlord over him and to tiger dad him, but I really want to experience what he's seeing. He was on a jumpy castle thing. Those those air bubble castle.
Bounce house.
Bounce house.
And it was the first time he was on it. And like the pure joy he had of jumping up in that thing and the giggles. I was like, that's why I'm here, is just to see what he's experiencing. And I think for me,